What's up? What's up? What's up, Commanders fans? We are live. The Commanders just defeated the Arizona Cardinals. And I tell you what, man, a win is a win, fellas. How you feeling about it, Brian?
Relieved that we did win. But this is what we said in the pregame. Don't come out here and mess around with the Cardinals and make mistakes and keep them in it and have it be 7-6 going in the fourth quarter. Well, it was 7-6, but it was like halftime. We were 7-6 or something like that early on. A lot of self-inflicted errors, unforced errors on our part, just bad stuff that we gotta do better. But hey, there were some changes made and they pulled out the win. So it's a win. You gotta be happy with that. We're 1-0. We're not 0-1. So we'll see what that gets us, and we'll see how they learn from this, because there's lots of learning to be had all around on this one.
Yeah, it's like, watching the game, it was frustrating. Now that it's over, it's like, look, you can only get so many wins in a season, right? It's tough to win in the NFL, and we already have one in our pocket, and that's got to mean something, Eric, what did you think about the game?
Closer than I would have liked. I predicted a close game beforehand. Not that close. I honestly, even when they were trailing, I kind of felt like they had it in the bag, because the Cardinals offense just couldn't do anything. Dobbs is what we thought he was, what we kind of said he was last week. He's just a guy who's kind of a placeholder at quarterback. That offense managed 9 points, 3 field goals. That's all they were able to do on offense. The only touchdown they got was on a botched play by our offense. They scored a defensive touchdown. Good on them. I was actually a little bit impressed with the Cardinals defense. I thought they came ready to ball on defense. Our offensive line is a horror show, and I think it's going to be a long season specifically because of that. But look, a win's a win. You got the dub. It's time to move on to Denver.
Yeah, I think, we all underestimated the Cardinals defense. At least I hope that's the case, right? Like, we'll see when, next week against Denver where our offense really is. But I think it was more that the Cardinals defense is a lot more talented and structured than what I think we thought. The offensive line, though, yes, significant concerns about the O-line there. Brian, quarterback performance, Sam Howell, first game of the 2023 season. Sum it up for us.
It's a C+. He made some boneheaded decisions, all in the name of a young quarterback trying to make a play. He's got to learn sometimes plays are just dead. Throw the ball away, live to play another down. Don't take the sack. Don't try to, do too much. But also, you saw that there, those sacks didn't, affect him. He came out still and led the team down to get 3 points before the half, right after, such a really bad play in that that strip sack that Arizona got, and recovered it in the end zone for a touchdown. Sometimes players don't recover from stuff like that. He put it aside and moved down the field. So you can see that he's learning, he's putting it together, but some of those things he's just got to throw the football away. And especially, hey, you don't have the best offensive line. Don't make it worse by now trying to make a hero play. Get the ball out of bounds, throw it out of bounds, run out of bounds. Whatever the case is, he made some plays with his legs. The first passing touchdown, the first passing touchdown, he broke the pocket, was able to get out on the run and throw. That was good. He ran one in later. He's got to get rid of the ball quicker. Don't compound mistakes by holding on to the ball and trying to make something happen.
Marcus says Sam Howell played well, except he needed to work on holding the ball. Gave him a B+. Etsy Dan says we won because of Sam's play today. Here's my assessment. I think Sam looked pretty similar to what he did in the game against Dallas. I think it was sort of the same kind of performance too, where you have the 1 touchdown, 1 pick, the 1 rushing touchdown. It's kind of weird how similar that performance was. Again, we need to understand how good Arizona's defense really was or wasn't to give this a really strong assessment. It's early. The one thing, and I said this to you guys in the chat, I don't want to see him taking those massive hits that he took today. One of them was out of bounds. That hit should have never happened. He just, to me, exposes himself so much when he runs he needs to get down sooner, in other words. And I think if you're going to compete for the starting job long-term, you got to be able to stay in the game. And that late hit out of bounds was real close to him being out of the game for the rest of the game. So otherwise, the receivers, it's hard to talk about the receivers without talking about the offense as a whole, because it didn't really feel like there was a strong rhythm in the offense, right? Like it felt like we were going chunks of time without the receivers being involved in the game at all. Tight end play I thought was okay. No, it wasn't okay. Sorry. Logan Thomas, 3 drops. He was brutal. He had a catch. He had the touchdown, didn't he? Or no, that was Brian Robinson. B-Rob did. I'm sorry. Yeah. We knew we should have did something else at tight end going into the season, and we did it. But here we are. So Eric,
8 targets, 4 catches for Logan Thomas. 8 targets, 4 catches,
and 3 drops. Yeah, Eric, what did you think about the quarterback play?
I was impressed with Sam Howell today. I thought he definitely wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. A couple of those sacks were on him. You got to hold on to the ball. That sack was not on him, but you still got to hold on to the ball.
Yeah.
But I think he rebounded well. After the touchdown that they gave up on offense, he came back and led them right down the field and had a chance to score a touchdown. That play call by Bieniemy, I hope he learned this game that running a sprint out when you're inside the 10-yard line and taking away half the field is dumb. He did that twice, and both times it failed spectacularly. Don't do that, man. Just give your quarterback the whole field to see he's smart enough to do it. But Sam, the touchdown, that was a big time play. The touchdown that he threw. That was if Chris Collinsworth were watching that, he'd still be gushing about it. That was like one of those Mahomes, like kind of wonky arm angle, really nice fit in between defenders. The receiver did a good job of getting open. So very, very big time play. Hal threw one bad pass today, and it wasn't the interception. The interception was a tip ball. Yeah. What are you going to do if a ball gets tipped? Things are going to happen. I think the one he threw that was like a yard behind Terry McLaurin that really could have been intercepted. And I think he was late on one toward the end of the first half. I believe there was like a curl route that Cole Turner didn't do a good job of coming back to, but I think the ball was a little late too. That could have been intercepted as well. Other than that, I thought, he played well enough. I do think the sack started to get to him toward the end of the game. He seemed to be a little bit more eager to run, a little quicker to pull it down and to take off with it, as you move toward the fourth quarter. And I thought it was weird that Bieniemy just stopped throwing. I think the last 12 play calls were all runs, which I get, but when they got that turnover and they were down inside the 20-yard line, I would have liked to have seen at least one shot to the end zone before just running it. But he just decided to run it 3 times and kick a field goal, go up, 19-16 or 19-13 or whatever it was. Or 20-16, I guess, but whatever it was, I thought Sam's play was pretty solid today. Definitely room for improvement, and the defenses I think are going to get better. Although, like I said, I think Arizona's defense, we kind of gave them a little bit earlier in the week about not really having a lot of dudes that were like playmakers, but I think they had some guys. What was the guy's name? Give me a second. Really solid defensive player. Sorry. No, not Zabin made a good interception. I can't think of his name right now. The defensive player that got the strip sack on him. He looks like he's going to be a dude in the NFL. Like he's a guy that they give him a little bit of run. And he doesn't get a lot of snaps on defense, but when he does, he makes impact plays. So I think he's definitely a guy. Dennis Gardick is who I'm thinking of. Yeah. Solid game by him. I think definitely the defensive backs were better than I gave them credit for. So I'll take ownership of that. We did have the one Cardinals fan show up in our comment section, and I'll give them props. I mean, they were much better on defense than I thought they were going to be. Offensively, I think they're dreadful. James Conner, kind of got it going a little bit there in the third quarter. But yeah, the season's going to get a lot tougher, but I think I was impressed with, from what I saw from Sam today, definitely I was impressed. It's a good building block, but there's a lot to work on too.
The one thing that I saw that it's clear we can't go all pass and think that we have the line to hold up for that. Whether or not Sam held on to the ball on a couple of plays, that offensive line is not a 50 pass attempt offensive line. Like you can't do that. I mean, on that strip sack, that guy beat Wiley clean, like right from the snap. He hit him and then boom, right into the spin move, and he was gone right by him. So we've got to mix it up a little bit more than what we were doing originally on that. But yeah, that was apparent pretty quickly. We're not quite there yet to be at a 50 pass attempt with that offensive line group.
Yeah, Eric Bieniemy did not call a good game in my opinion today. He was way too pass heavy.
Yeah,
he put way too much on Sam Howell early. The running game wasn't great, but it was effective enough. I mean, Brian Robinson was ripping off 5-yard runs here and there. And then there'd be times when there was a guy right on him as soon as he took the handoff. But I think Bieniemy he was way too pass heavy at the beginning of the game. And, I think, the runs toward the end of the game were going to skew the run pass balance a little bit.
Yeah.
But he was there was probably 3 drives where they didn't even attempt a rush. And you just can't do that in the NFL. Especially with a young quarterback and a suspect offensive line. You've got to run the ball. He really needs. I really hope that he gets better about that moving forward, where he can balance the run and the pass much more than he did today, because it was not good.
Yeah, when we were balanced, when we did it for a handful of plays, like the defense was off balance and we actually looked like we could move the football. Yeah, balance has got to be better. It can't just be that one-sided. If it's working, great, but it clearly wasn't working. So hopefully Denver, we look a little bit better in terms of balance.
Yeah, I think all the things that were issues in the offseason, or at least heading into the offseason, still seem like they're an issue right now. That's the one thing that's troubling me. The run game is still not that effective. When we need to swallow the ball just to keep the clock turning, I think we can do that. But we are not getting a lot of plays out of our run game. Gibson, that big fumble, that was massive. That was massive. We can't have that. We got to clean that up. I think Gibson averaged 3 yards a carry. If I'm not mistaken, Robinson was 3.5. I'll pull up the stats in a minute, but we're just not getting enough out of that position. And I think, running backs are a dime a dozen until you don't have one, right, that can really create plays for you in the run game. Now, granted, we didn't have a lot of commitment to the run game today, and those guys weren't really allowed to get into a flow. But I think, this is not the kind of offense that you want, or we don't have the kind of offensive setup where you just want to put the entire game on Sam Howell's shoulders. You're going to get him killed. It's not fair to him. And I don't think it's going to be fair to the offensive line. They're not great, but you at least have to keep the defense guessing with the run game. You know what I mean? Take some pressure off both of those units, the quarterback and the offensive line. Let's see. What do we got here? Seems very repeat of last year. Same issues in offseason, following the team into the regular season. And I say a lot of that is still caused by the O-line too. We agree. Yes, we agree. And
it's a good thing we got our first 2 draft picks were cornerbacks, right? It was a good thing those draft picks were cornerbacks.
Well, hey,
offensive line.
Yeah, Forbes came up with the play at the end. I mean, Josh Dobbs is throwing the ball like a lunatic at the end of the game. I don't know what he was doing in the second half, but Forbes was there on that last play of the game. I did not notice Martin in the game. I haven't looked at the stats, but I don't remember seeing him at all.
He got a penalty on the first punt. I know that. That's about all I saw of him.
Yeah. He got a concussion later, too. He got a concussion later.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pull up the stats, fellas. Let me get that going. While I'm doing that, special teams-wise, I thought we looked pretty solid. Crowder had some good returns. I mean, nothing like, crazy special, but I thought, he did a pretty decent job there of getting the return game in order compared to what we had last season. You guys agree?
Very Milne-like. Wasn't great. Did a nice job of getting out of trouble on one punt, but I mean, probably a 4-yard return that he ran 50 yards to get. But didn't put the ball on the ground. I think that's all that Ron Rivera wants anyway. So I think that was fine. Joey Sly made his 2 kicks, put everything through the end zone. Tress Way looked in midseason form. He's Tress Way. Had one bad snap on an extra point, or was it a field goal? Can't remember. But we had a bad snap from Cheeseman. Tress Way did a great job getting that down so that Sly could hit that as well. But I mean, overall, special teams were fine. Nothing to complain about. I thought Emmanuel Forbes actually was good because they really weren't going after him much. I know they gave up the one play to Hollywood in the fourth quarter on a 3rd down when he was playing like 15 yards off the ball for whatever reason. But they really seemed like they were going after Fuller more than they were going after Emmanuel Forbes. I think that's a positive sign.
I thought Forbes. I thought Fuller did well too
Yes,
when he could. Now let me take for granted or take into consideration the quarterback here. So all right, defensively, Jamin Davis 6 tackles total. He had a tackle for loss. Brian, how do you think Jamin Davis did in his first game of the season?
I thought he was ordinary. I'm starting to notice something earlier in the game. There was a running back. He was, I think, covering maybe out of the backfield, and I don't know if it was a miscommunication if he thought he was going to pass him off to the safety, but the guy slips behind him, and Jamin is just standing there, and it's a big gain for Arizona. So it very much looks like he's a better run defender than he is coverage player, which I think we thought was going to be the opposite when he came into the league, right when he was drafted. So I thought the game was ordinary for him. Not a step forward. Doesn't look like the progression that we've seen, but it's one game. It was wet out there. Maybe the field conditions played a part in the game as well. But ordinary, and that's not what you want to hear from a first round pick.
Yeah, I didn't see a ton from Cody Barton either, at least not as much as I would like, but
Hey,
you never know. We'll see what happens there. Hey, Eric, defensively as a unit, are we prepared to be effective this year, at least as effective as we were last year?
Yeah, I think so. I think what you saw, our defensive line really took over the game in the second half, especially the early fourth quarter. Things could have really started going bad for us. And the defensive line, Daron Payne, John Allen, and Montez Sweat all just completely took over that game. They all had 2 tackles for loss. Montez Sweat had a sack and a half. I would have given him 2. I don't think Abdullah Anderson got much on that one. Jonathan Allen had 3 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and he's the first person I've ever seen pimp slap a quarterback into a sack. That was pretty great. He just gave him the little backhand. Yeah. I think that the quarterback got up and handed him a $100 bill just out of instinct. And Daron Payne, 2 tackles during the game, but you saw the impact that he had. He was way more impactful than 2 tackles. Both of his tackles were tackles for loss, but he was everywhere the second half of that game. Which is, that was one of my concerns going into this season for him is like, now that he's paid, is he going to bring that sort of effort? Based on today, it looks like he did. Jonathan Allen was, I think, getting double teamed like the majority of the game, and Daron Payne really took advantage of that, which is what you want to see. And like I said, Montez Sweat totally on his way to getting paid. I thought Cam Curl was sensational today. He was everywhere.
He dropped a pick. He had a pick early, but he read it and everything, jumped on it. He couldn't hold it.
Or was that? I thought that was Percy Butler that did that. No, Percy Butler had one. Really should have had it because we ended up giving up points on that drive. But yeah, Curl was phenomenal. Derek Forrest played really well. Emmanuel Forbes, like I said, played really well. Casey Toohill showed out. I thought the rest of James Smith Williams was stout as all get out, filling in for Chase Young. And again, you're talking about the Cardinals, so there's only so much you could take away from that. But based on what I saw today, this defense was ready to go, and I think there was definitely a carryover from early from the preseason when they were coming up and smacking people.
I will say for our defense, maybe a little bit of a slow start to be at the beginning. We're lucky it was Arizona and they only got field goals. A better team, those are touchdowns, and those are probably 14 points, on us already quickly. So I hope, it'll be something I'll watch next week. Hopefully, we can get better with that. But did you guys notice Del Rio seemed like he brought a lot more pressure? Like there were some more blitzes early in this game to kind of jumpstart the defense, because it did feel like the defense was a little slow waking up in the game before they took over. I did notice there was some more blitzing, which I'd like. I wish he would do it more often.
I also saw it seemed like he had a good feel for it too, because you saw him back off at one point, and that's really when the defensive line took over. Like he started out blitzing heavily, then as the game progressed, he just went back to the 4-man rush, and the 4-man rush just took over. So yeah, it was a really good defensive. I think Jack Del Rio called a great defensive game.
Yeah,
I did notice a lot of the 5-man D line this game. Did you guys see a bunch of that? I wasn't really looking for it, but I don't recall too much.
It was very. They went a lot of nickel. They had a lot of defensive backs in the game for a good chunk of it. The 5D line, I don't recall seeing that once. They probably did roll it out, but I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah, so Dobbs coming off the street for the Cardinals. I don't like to do the what if game, but I feel like if Kyler Murray was there, this might be a different conversation based on how we played today, but he wasn't, and it's a W. And looking across the NFL, there was a lot of bad offense today, just across the league. Ryan Tannehill threw 3 picks. Kenny Pickett was bad today. I think what's the other guy's name?
Joe
Burrow.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Lamar was bad today. Like it's early in the season. I think that's what this all really means. And you know what they say, you can't really judge your team to your quarter way through the season. So I'm trying not to take too much out of what we saw today. But in terms of like, hey, we're unveiling this new offensive coordinator, I think you'd want a little bit more out of the offensive unit. But they did enough to win today. Certainly some areas to improve. 6 sacks that Sam Howell took today. Offensive line obviously is a big reason for that. I just can't harp on this enough. Our running game, Brian Robinson Jr., 19 carries, 59 yards, 3.1 yards a carry. 7 yards is long. Now, in his defense, when it mattered, he was moving the pile forward. And you got to appreciate him for that. Antonio Gibson, 3 carries, 9 yards, 3 yards a carry, long of 3. Chris Rodriguez Jr., 3 carries, 7 yards, 2.3 yards a carry, long of 3. Just not good enough there. I think that's an area we can really help out the quarterback there. Our receivers were led by Curtis Samuel, and thank you for that trade in fantasy, Eric, because that might help me out. Now, I need to go find another tight end, but I thought that Terry had 2 catches for 31 yards. This is something we noticed last year too. I want Terry to get 10 catches every game. I think he's earned it. It just wasn't that type of game. It is what it is. I hope that evolves. But what do you think? What do you guys think about the receivers as a whole?
Didn't think there was a big emphasis on getting them the ball. I think it was very much flow of the offense, and Sam was definitely looking for the tight ends, and I think Logan Thomas really let him down because he had 2 very easy completions that Logan dropped, and the other one would have been a tough catch, but he would have had to fight off a defender, but he could have held on to it. Curtis, I thought played well. Jahan Dotson, I didn't think was very involved at all, even though he ended up with 5 catches. Like, he didn't really have any memorable catches except the one where he got, hit in the head on. So yeah, there's definitely, they need to find a way to get the receivers, because the receivers are the strongest part of the offense. They need to find a way to get them more involved. Curtis Samuel, I thought, played very well, but I still think you can have him as long as I get Sam Laporta. So that was a good trade for both of us.
Yeah. You got it.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of the quick passing game, right? Like, the whole thing was over the summer in training camp was like the enemy's going to utilize the quick pass game. It just very much seemed like traditional, just drop back and let Sam read it out, go through his progressions, and I'm like, where's the quick passing game? The rush is getting to us. The line doesn't seem to be holding up. Sam's holding the ball. Get the ball out of his hands. So it was a little disappointing not to see more of that. And then I think we only saw 2 screens. I think they both worked too. One to Gibson and one to somebody else. Maybe it was Curtis Samuel. I don't know who. Maybe it was Robinson. I don't remember who the second screen was, but the screens worked, which they didn't work in preseason. So that was nice to see, but only 2 of them. I'd like to have probably seen a couple of more of those thrown in just to kind of back the defense down a little bit, just to keep them from just putting so much pressure on the offense. But we just could never get into a rhythm, which I think probably affects what you call to Terry and to Jahan, like some of those bigger plays, those chunk plays, things like that. So we could never get into a rhythm, and those guys, I think their numbers suffered because of it.
Can we all agree that Gibson screen pass was a first down?
Oh, 100%. And that was a good challenge. They shouldn't even have had to challenge that. That was clearly a first down.
That was such a bogus call. And the guy on the TV was like, oh, well, they didn't have a look at it that clearly showed something. Dude, he was way across the line to gain. Like, knock it off. But
did he not go for it there? Like, all right, they tell us it's 4th and 1. Like, I thought Ron would have gone for it there. Load up and get a yard. Like, put Brian Robinson and Chris Rodriguez back there. Something like, why would we not go for it there?
I think I agree with not going for it, only because the position would have put the Cardinals in. Yeah, if they did get it. But
and again, their offense wasn't doing anything.
Yeah. we didn't get any picks on Dobbs. That's surprising. I went back and looked at it. I would have thought like the way that he was just spraying the ball all over the place. But really, Dobbs every game that Dobbs plays in, he turns the ball over at critical points in the game, and he did it again today too. I think he's played in like 3 professional games and had the same problem every single time. So that's why I wasn't concerned. Now I felt like we'd blow these guys out of the water, but look, the first week of any NFL season is always going to produce some crazy results. The key is to not look like this ever again. You know what I mean? And as long as we don't, and we continue to build on what we did today, then I think we're going to be just fine this year. We got to see the rest of the division play before we really feel like, hey, we have a good read on where we might be. But I thought the crowd was outstanding today on TV. You could really hear them coming through, especially early. They got a little nervous at halftime when we were losing, but you know, they stuck around, and kudos to everybody at the game, because it would have been real easy to say, oh, here we go again, another year, we're blowing it like always. And they stuck around through the rain and continued to cheer the team on to victory. I thought that in general, Brian, for this game, scale of 1 to 10, based on what you thought and the outcome of the game, what are you putting this at?
Well, it's a win, so you're already going to get pretty high because it's a win. But it was sloppy. There was lots of mistakes, unforced errors. There didn't necessarily seem to be a plan offensively to attack the Cardinals. And right, brand new coaching staff, hard to say what the Cardinals were going to do. I listened to some of Rivera's press conference after the game, but he said looks like they brought some different things that they hadn't seen before, that kind of stuff. It's a win, but it didn't need to look like this. It could have been so much better. And, you know, if we just clean some things up, penalties, sacks, turnovers, it could have been so much better. So I think I've got to give it a B, because again, it's a win. You said it earlier, Ellie, there's only 17 of these games, and we don't win many of them, or at least we haven't in these recent years. So we started out, we're 1-0. So I'm giving it a B.
On a 1 to 10, Brian gives it a B.
That's it. That's how frustrated I am. That's how upset I am.
Eric, going into this season, you said, hey, I think there's something that got put on tape in preseason that teams are going to bring into the regular season, and that was bringing pressure against Howell. And the Cardinals sure as heck went out and did that. How do you think Howell handled that pressure compared to what you saw in the preseason?
It was better. It's early in the game, even into the third quarter. I thought he did a really good job of managing the pocket, stepping up when he needed to, when it was there. Did a good job of sliding and keeping his head downfield. I think as the game progressed, though, you kind of saw him get a little bit more wary of it and kind of take off. We didn't see any of those just really awful sacks like he took in the preseason, where he just didn't know where the pressure was coming from at all. He got sacked most of the time. It was either a guy was right in his face as soon as he got the ball almost, or he was trying to escape pressure and he got sacked. But for the most part, I thought he did a much better job of climbing the pocket and managing what was around him before taking off and keeping his head downfield and getting the ball out of his hands. He did a pretty good job of that. So I was actually pretty impressed with that. Of course, there's always room for improvement. The hardest thing for a young quarterback to learn is to not run sideways when there's pressure coming, and he's still learning that. But he was able to step up on several occasions today. So I think he's getting it. He's getting better, but it's just not there yet. It's not perfect. He's still a very inexperienced quarterback. I expect him to continue to improve as the season progresses, but until he does, he's going to continue getting that type of pressure.
Yeah. And if I said, hey, grade Eric Bieniemy's play calling today, what would you give it, Eric?
C-. I don't think he did it. I think you were away for a little bit, but I don't think he called a good game at all. He was way too pass heavy early on. And, when he got, scoring opportunities, when you got inside the red zone, to just like run those sprint out plays where you send 2 guys out and you run Sam all the way to his right or left, and there's no place for him to go if those guys aren't there. I hate those play calls. That's a bad play call for that part of the field, in my opinion. So I hope he learns from that and gets better and stops doing that. So I was not a fan of the game that he called pretty much at all today. There was not a lot of rhythm in the offense. They couldn't get the run game going because he wouldn't commit to it. The offensive line was unreliable, but he continued to just drop Sam back when he didn't necessarily have to. There wasn't as early in the game. I thought there was a good emphasis on getting the ball out of Sam's hands, but I think that went away as the game progressed and he just started, putting it back there so he could hold on to it. I think the Cardinals defense held up well in coverage to where Sam had to either take off with the ball or take a sack. So, Sam, it's back to the drawing board for Eric. I hope he gets a lot better because I think Denver's defense is way better than what Arizona brought today.
Yeah, it's kind of wild thinking about how the Chiefs opened the season and everybody's like, oh, see, it's because Bieniemy's not there. And then we open the season and we're like, oh, no, what do we do? So I truly think it just means that it's going to take time. And you're going to have to see real game situation to improve upon that. All right, so I think we covered most things here. Thank you guys for joining the stream, by the way, but we will be back on Tuesday with our normal podcast. Make sure you guys check it out. Subscribe to the YouTube and on all social medias and podcast platforms. We will be there. Let's see. Jack Norris says O-line is a big problem, especially this early in the year. If it looks this bad against the Cards, imagine how bad it will be when we play the Cowboys. That is true. It gave me flashbacks of Carson Wentz last year in the pocket. You guys remember that, where it just felt like there was just nothing we could do against the rush? I do think Sam Howell handled it better than Wentz did, but that O-line, man, we gotta figure something out there. Yam says only 1 week, but we still didn't make leverage or league average for points from the previous 2 seasons. Yeah, we pulled out the Scott Turner number today, but listen, it's gonna get better, Yam. It's gonna get better. Don't you worry. There's more time. And again, what's our record and what's our place in the division? Right, we're at the top. We're 1-0. We're at the top half of the league already, and we'll take it. We'll take it. They can't all be pretty, right? If they were, we'd be in the Super Bowl already. But I feel good about this. There's some things to clean up big time, and we don't get a lot of time. Once the season starts going, these games just keep coming. They keep coming. So you got to fix it in a couple of days of practice. You do get. We're gonna go on a stretch here where we got some pretty tough opponents, and if we had lost this game, this next stretch would feel almost impossible, right? But at least we got 1 W in the pocket, and now we can afford to keep some games close and see what happens rather than feeling like everything is desperation because we don't have any wins. So I'm very happy with the outcome. I thought Joey Slye did a great job today as well. Tressway was huge when he needed to be. He had an incredible punt at least once in that game, and we're going to go to Denver now, or we're playing Denver next. So we'll be back Tuesday with our normal podcast. Brian, any final thoughts on the game today?
There is lots and lots of room for improvement. Game 1, we're not done yet.
All right. And Jack Norris, Sweat played well, deserves to get the bag instead of Chase. Sweat is getting the bag. Believe it. Eric, final thoughts?
We're on to Denver.
On to
Denver. That Belichick? That's my Belichick quote. We're on to Denver.
All right. Well, my final thought is this. The Commanders did not practice the run game a whole heck of a lot early in the offseason. We didn't see it a ton in preseason, and I think we're now seeing the results from that. It's going to take time for that unit to gel because they did not get a lot of run and rep in the offseason. Maybe we change that going forward. Focus on the run, Bieniemy. We do have guys that can run the ball. I think we can be effective and help our young quarterback out. The Commanders are 1-0. How about that? And we won't be last place in the division because the Giants and Cowboys play each other this week. Take that. We are back next week. Have a good Sunday. Have a good week, everybody. Stay safe, stay up, and we'll catch you on the flip side. We are out of here.